If they build an underwater road in Lagos, Nigeria, will you still use the road after 5 years? If your answer is no, then we are thinking the same thing. Why is maintenance culture so bad in Nigeria? Hello guys, welcome back to Madness in Nigeria Living, and I'm your host, Gesi. Why do we like new things? Let's just jump into it. Why do we as Nigerians like new things? We like new hotels, new restaurants, new mint money, new event centers. Why always new? This is not a specific problem to Nigeria in the sense of liking new. The problem though, or let me say the issue here or the crisis here is the reason we like new things isn't because of our affinity to the new, but because for us a new thing is something that is still good. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say in Nigeria there's a maintenance culture crisis. If it's not new, there's a high chance it's bad. So when we're looking at public sectors, think of the public hospital, the public school, the road. If it's not a new road, does it still look good? That's why I asked the question. Will you try the road after 5 years, an underwater road? I don't think anyone would. But unlike just blaming the government, this is something that you also see in the private sector. So it's a bit more tricky, but the government can still be blamed. And that's what I'm here to do. Blame the government. Okay, let's go. First things first, the Nigerian politicians from every level, from the state level, local government level, all the way up to the presidential level, they think of their policies in terms of ego. What do I mean by that? The presidents, the governors, they don't think of ways to maintain the amenities that already exist. When they are in power, they want the legacy to be tied to their work. They want to own ownership. This is the road I did. This is the road my government did. This is the school my government built. And what that does is they budget a lot of money to build a new school, a new hospital, a new road. Whatsoever public building they can do, they just make a new one, stamp their name on it. In my 4 years, in my 8 years of ruling, this is what I did, and we just cheers, we clap, and we move on. But the thing is, because it's tied to their ego, they don't think of how to do proper work, which by that I mean the proper maintenance. They're thinking, this thing I've done, when I'm no longer here, how would it be sustained? And better still, my predecessors, how can I sustain their own legacy? No, it's a me. Let me do it first. Then the next person that takes over will figure it out. The next person that takes over also wants their name to be attached to something. So they build new again as opposed to maintain. Because if you spend your 4 years, your 8 years maintaining what the people before you did, just doing repair and maintenance, they fear that their name would be attached to they did nothing. So in one hand, we celebrate the new they do without really asking, what are you doing with the ones you met? What are you doing with the bad road you met? What are you doing with the bad schools you met, the bad hospitals? We don't ask those questions. And worst of all, the role corruption plays in this is something that cannot be overlooked. For one, when they budget whatsoever they need to make this new building, this new road, they usually have the big budget, very unreasonable budget cost. God, I just remember the budget I saw for street lights. I don't want to talk about that. Okay, so the budget cost here is very big. The politicians first of all steal from the budget. They take their money and then they employ contractors that they usually personally know and contractors that have the same kind of rapport with them. So those contractors do the same thing. They also steal their own cut from it. What that does is they cut deep into the budget of the creation of this new amenity one, and they use inferior materials to create this thing, because after cutting down the cost for material is lower. And because of that, a building that should have lasted 10 years, by year 2, by year 3, you have already seen it deteriorating. And a government that spent that much money to build the building definitely wouldn't spend more money to maintain it. Because first things first, the bridge was only done to show that, within my 8 years of working, I did this new thing. The new thing is what the news will ever carry. The news will never carry the things that are not being maintained. So the corruption plays a role. The government is the corrupt one. The government plays its role. But how does this affect our private sector? How does it affect our private sector? So I will go from the most obvious to the least thought about here. The most obvious way it affects our private sector is inflation and devaluing of naira. So if you are building a new hotel, the cost it will take you to maintain the hotel in 2020 is definitely not the same cost in 2025, and that's just within a 5-year span. They'll tell you most businesses die out after 10 years. Within a 5-year span, the difference in value is so much that most businesses wouldn't even survive it. Now, for the few that do, the cost of maintenance in itself is something that the business at the beginning point will include into their plans. A proper business plan will contain the cost from each revenue that will go back into the business, and some of which will be maintenance. Some will be little maintenance, like just maybe sweeping the premises and all that. Some might be a little bit more capital intensive, like painting, machinery maintenance, but all of which has to be included. And now when you as a business is looking for investors, you want your return on investment to look good on paper. What most people will do in this kind of situation is think of how to raise the capital and make the capital look good for the investors without including costs that will obviously arise after the product has been made or after the building has been made. And usually that means the cost of maintenance would be overlooked or underreported. The idea now here is, first things first, within the first few years, maximize the profit you can make. I'll come back to this maximize the profit mindset and where it really comes from. But because inflation is so bad, it's harder to plan long term for cost of maintenance, because the cost of maintenance today might not be the same cost in a year time, which is tricky to make maintenance culture a thing. But another thing with maintenance culture in Nigeria is we don't have a sense of ownership. And what do I mean by that? We always feel like if it's not my own, if I'm not the one who owns it, why should I care as an individual? Like, if it's not your personal business, if it's not your personal compound, you are not the owner of the compound, you are renting it. A lot of people just feel they just have to survive till they leave, and when the next person comes, the next person will take care of it. There have been a lot of ways to incentivize the behavior of wanting to take care of the property, but even with that, I think deep down we still don't have that culture. We still don't have that mindset of I should take care of this because we know it's not ours. We always feel like not be me getting so. That also leads to the mentality I want to talk about next, which is poverty mentality. And what do I mean by that here? The thing with poverty is it's difficult to think long term for issues you can see immediately. And when you grow up in an environment that is lacking in resources, everybody from the rich to the poor sort of internalize that mindset of short term. And that's why I said a lot of these businesses will look at how they can maximize profit short term. One, because of the uncertainty of the economies, but two, because deep down we have internalized that make the most money you can make now, and tomorrow you figure it out. And the quickest way to see how poverty mentality affect our maintenance culture is most Nigerians will not go to the hospital if they are not damn bad sick. We don't have that mindset of just going for regular checkups. We don't, and it's not because we don't want to. It's more so you look at the cost of doing that. Look at the fact that money you want to spend for that maintenance culture, you can just use it to buy new food. And now I'm talking about your own body as something that should be maintained though. If we already have that mindset of not going for regular checkup, the same is true for things outside of our body. So when you look at this subject here of how we don't think of maintaining ourselves and we expand it to everything, it's just opportunity cost at the end of the day. The cost of you spending that money to change a bad socket, you can just sum it up as I can just wait till I'm doing proper renovation. And that's how it compiles for bigger businesses. Even the individuals working there, the people doing the services there, they also feel eventually they'll still change everything. And so what's the point in doing that little maintenance? It's quite an interesting thing, really. It's one of those things that if you don't really think much about it, you wouldn't really notice. But when you go to a hotel, when you go to a new restaurant, one thing you get immediately you enter is the premium feel. You feel this is luxury, you feel this is premium, and you are getting a premium service. And one of those part of those services here is the aesthetics of the building. So when you don't do proper maintenance, the sweeping, the repainting, the changing of bad socket, faulty sockets and all that, you start removing from the premium experience, which in turn makes people likely to go and check out another new hotel. Because like I said, in Nigeria, for us, new is, it is not bad yet. So we try the new thing. And because of that, the older hotels are less likely to have new customers, which in turn affects their revenue, which in turn affects their profit, which in turn makes the business close down. So the few hotels that you see that have long-term names like Echo Hotel, you have been hearing it for the longest, is because of maintenance culture. They maintain the premium status you are going to get there. So what does this say? Like, particularly, what am I trying to say in all of this? In one hand, we can take a good look on the budget and what part of the budget goes to repairs and maintenance. We can try and see the individual agencies that are supposed to tackle that, and through that, hold people accountable for it. As much as we can try that, I don't really think it will make much difference in one hand, but that's a way to go. This is one topic that I'm not very optimistic about how we can change the outcome, but I do believe if we talk more about it, we are more likely to have that consciousness and that awareness to it, and maybe just point it out to the next person, and maybe to the next person, to the next person, to the next person. So in another hand here, where I feel like to change the maintenance culture might be difficult for us, that's my personal belief. I do think the awareness of it, of the damages it can cause, really might put things in perspective. For one, the road in Nigeria is very terrible. According to the World Bank, only about 30% of Nigerian roads are actually still good. So the potholes, it usually causes traffic, which usually cause an increased cost of maintenance for public means of transportation, one. But even for the private sector, that extra time on the road, that extra time to maintain your vehicles, usually is cost you push onto the final consumer of your service, of your product. So our bad road in turn increase our cost of living, and this can be avoided if maintenance culture is imbued in us. It's difficult to think of going to a public hospital because we know there are nothing to write home about, and all this comes from the fact that we don't think of how to maintain these amenities long term. And even for our private people, like when you're looking at your own private sector, really put into cognizance the fact that maintenance can help keep your premium look, which in turn increase the chance of you getting long-term customers. And that's just it. For one, I think this episode is a little bit tricky because I'm trying to like pass a message whereas I'm still very skeptical, but at the same time I don't think I'm supposed to know it all or believe in it all. I just think I am supposed to be a sort of medium to bring the conversation to the forefront. Why is maintenance culture very bad in Nigeria? What can we do to change that? And if you have a way we can tackle this topic to bring about real change, I'm open to learn. You can comment down below. Please like if you like what I'm doing, subscribe, share to more people. I will see you again. Bye. Mwah.